I never imagined that the loss of my wife would turn my life into a battle I never saw coming. In the months following her passing, I became both mother and father to our two children, a role I embraced with trembling determination, even as the weight of grief threatened to shatter me. Every morning, I woke to a world that felt irrevocably altered, yet I forced myself to be strong. I balanced long work hours, endless household chores, and the unspoken sorrow that clung to our home like a persistent shadow. My wife had been the heart of our family, her laughter and kindness the glue that held everything together. Now, in her absence, every small act of care, preparing breakfast, tucking the kids in at night, wiping away their tears, became a tribute to her memory. When my sister-in-law first offered to help, it felt like a godsend. She volunteered to look after the children so that I might focus on work and the myriad details of our disrupted lives. At first, I welcomed her assistance with open arms, clinging to the hope that together we could honor my wife's legacy and keep our family from falling apart. Her support seemed genuine, a comforting presence in the midst of chaos. Yet, as the weeks passed, subtle hints of something darker began to emerge. Small inconsistencies in her explanations, a peculiar insistence on making decisions without consulting me, and offhand remarks that questioned my ability to parent started to erode the trust I had placed in her. I tried to ignore these unsettling signs. After all, I was drowning in grief and exhaustion, desperate for any semblance of normalcy. The first real crack in the facade came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I returned from work a little earlier than usual, only to overhear a hushed, heated conversation coming from the living room. Standing in the doorway, I listened as my sister-in-law spoke in low, bitter tones on the phone. I couldn't catch every word, but the malicious tone and the casual cruelty in her voice made my blood run cold. In that moment, I felt a sinking certainty. The help I had once believed in was nothing more than a veneer masking betrayal. I confronted her later that evening, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. She brushed off my concerns with a tight smile and empty reassurances, but the damage was done. The seeds of doubt had been sown. In the days that followed, my worst fears were confirmed. I discovered that behind her kindly offers lay a calculated scheme. My sister-in-law had secretly filed for custody of my children, painting me as an unfit father in documents laden with half-truths and outright lies. The revelation hit me like a freight train. I stood in the kitchen, staring blankly at a cup of cold coffee as the reality of her betrayal crashed over me. How could someone I once considered family, the very person who had stepped forward to help me in my darkest hour, turn around and wage war on my life? Every memory of my wife, every moment of unconditional love I had given to my kids, was tainted by her treachery. I felt not only the raw agony of loss, but also the burning injustice of being deceived by someone so close. As the legal battle for custody began, my life was thrown into a whirlwind of court dates, lawyer consultations, and sleepless nights spent poring over legal documents. Every day in the courtroom was a reminder of what I had lost, not just in my wife, but in the trust I had once placed in family. My sister-in-law's campaign was relentless. With a venomous smile, she recounted intimate details of our family life in a way that was meant to portray me as a negligent, unworthy father. The courtroom, a place I had once believed would deliver justice, had become a stage for her manipulation. I listened in silence, my heart pounding with a mix of fury and despair, as she twisted every word and every memory into a weapon against me. I soon realized that I was not merely fighting for custody. I was fighting to reclaim my identity as a father, to honor the memory of my wife, and to preserve the future of my children. I began gathering every scrap of evidence that could expose the lies my sister-in-law had spun. I scoured old emails, collected testimonies from neighbors and family friends, and even retrieved long-forgotten financial records. Each piece of evidence was a tiny shard of truth, slowly coalescing into an irrefutable portrait of deception. I discovered that her offers of help were not born out of altruism, but were part of a broader, insidious plan to wrest control from me. It became clear that she had been meticulously orchestrating her betrayal for years, waiting patiently for the perfect moment to strike. Even as I built my case, the battle took its toll. Friends and acquaintances, swayed by her persuasive lies, began to distance themselves from me. I received anonymous warnings to drop the fight, messages that were as chilling as they were empty. One evening, as I sat at my desk in a room dimly lit by a single desk lamp, I stared at a series of threatening texts on my phone. They warned me to cease my pursuit of the truth or face dire consequences. But fear, though present, was no longer a deterrent. I had come too far, endured too much, to allow intimidation to silence me. My resolve only hardened with every threat, every sleepless night spent plotting my next move. I vowed to expose her for what she truly was, a traitor who would stop at nothing to tear our family apart. I began to secretly consult with a seasoned family lawyer who had built a reputation for taking on impossible cases. In long, quiet meetings, we discussed strategy and pored over the evidence I had painstakingly assembled. He confirmed what I had long suspected. My sister-in-law's case was built on a foundation of lies and manipulation. With his guidance, I set about preparing a comprehensive exposé of her actions. We compiled records, secured affidavits from those who had witnessed her duplicity, and even recovered digital footprints that pointed to financial improprieties and emotional abuse. Every piece of evidence added another layer of damning truth to my case, and with each discovery, the prospect of redemption became a little more tangible. One particularly damning revelation came to light during a chance encounter at a family reunion. Amid the laughter and casual chatter, I found myself cornered by an elderly relative who had once been close to my late wife. With trembling eyes, he confessed details of my sister-in-law's past that she had desperately tried to bury, stories of manipulation, exploitation, and betrayal that spanned decades. His words were a bitter tonic, affirming the grim reality I had long suspected but had dared not fully acknowledge. The betrayal was not just a recent development. It was a deep-seated pattern of behavior that had infiltrated every corner of our family. The truth was a knife, and with each revelation, it carved a deeper wound in my already shattered heart. Armed with the full weight of evidence, I prepared for the next phase of this painful odyssey. I meticulously organized meetings with respected community leaders and experts in digital forensics, individuals who could verify the authenticity of the documents and recordings I had gathered. I arranged a confidential presentation where the facts of my sister-in-law's deception would be laid bare before an impartial panel. This was not meant to be a public spectacle, but rather a controlled unveiling of the truth. A decisive moment when the scales of justice would finally tip in my favor. In the quiet hours before that fateful day, I rehearsed my testimony over and over, determined that every word would carry the weight of undeniable truth. I recalled the countless nights of heartache and the searing pain of betrayal, and with each recollection, my determination grew fiercer. I refused to be painted as an unfit father, a villain in my own story. I would fight for the memory of my wife, for the well-being of my children, and for my own dignity. The day of the presentation arrived with an atmosphere of palpable tension. I entered the modest conference room where the panel awaited, each face reflecting a mix of skepticism and anticipation. I began calmly, methodically outlining the sequence of events that had led to this moment. With deliberate precision, I presented document after document, emails, financial records, and recorded conversations, each one a testament to the calculated betrayal orchestrated by my sister-in-law. The evidence was irrefutable. One by one, the carefully constructed lies began to unravel before the eyes of the panel. I could see the shift in their expressions as the undeniable truth washed over them, their initial doubts replaced by a growing understanding of the magnitude of her deception. As I spoke, my sister-in-law arrived at the back of the room, her presence a stark contrast to the mounting tide of evidence against her. She attempted to interject, her voice tinged with forced calm, but the dam had already broken. The panel listened in silence as I recounted every detail of her misdeeds, each word delivered with the cold clarity of a man who had nothing left to lose. Her attempts at denial were feeble, drowned out by the overwhelming weight of the evidence. The truth, once hidden behind a veil of lies, now stood exposed for all to see. The room seemed to hold its collective breath as the realization sank in. The woman who had once offered to help had been the architect of my undoing. In the aftermath of that presentation, the consequences for my sister-in-law were swift and uncompromising. The legal system, now armed with incontrovertible evidence, moved decisively to strip her of any claim to custody. The community, once blinded by her charm, turned its back on her with a sense of vindication. I made no effort to forgive her. The betrayal cut too deeply. Forgiveness, I realized, would be a gift I could not afford to give. a gift that would only serve to erase the hard-won truth of what she had done. Instead, I allowed the satisfaction of justice to fill the void left by my loss. The victory was not without its scars. The courtroom battles, the isolation from friends, and the relentless pressure of proving my worth as a father had left me drained and forever altered. Yet, as I looked into the eyes of my children, I saw a spark of hope, a promise that despite the darkness we had endured, we would forge ahead. Their resilience became my own, a quiet affirmation that even in the face of betrayal, a father's love and determination could triumph over the most insidious deceit. Now, in the quiet of my modest home, with the echoes of the past still reverberating softly in the background, I find a measure of peace in the knowledge that I have reclaimed my life. The betrayal by my sister-in-law will forever be a scar upon my soul, a reminder that some wounds never truly heal. Yet, in that same scar lies the story of my fight for justice, a story that will continue to inspire me every day. I have learned that true strength is not found in forgiveness for those who betray you, but in the courage to stand up and fight for what is right, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Every morning, as I watch my children head off to school with smiles that belie the hardships they've endured, I am reminded of the promise I made to my wife, to protect and nurture our family at all costs. I honor her memory by instilling in them the values she held dear: honesty, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to truth. My journey has been long and fraught with pain, yet it has also been a journey of transformation. I have emerged from the darkness with a renewed sense of purpose and a determination that burns brighter than ever. The betrayal I suffered has reshaped me, hardening my resolve and teaching me that the cost of truth is sometimes measured in heartache and sacrifice. But I would trade that pain for nothing, for it has made me the father I am today, one who stands unyielding in the face of injustice, unwilling to let anyone diminish the light of my family's love. I know now that the true measure of a man is not found in the ease of his forgiveness, but in the strength to exact a righteous revenge when the bonds of trust are shattered. I continue to move forward, not with bitterness, but with a steely determination to protect my children and to preserve the legacy of the love that once filled our home. My sister-in-law's treachery will always be a part of my past, a grim chapter that I will neither forget nor condone. It serves as a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the truth has a way of emerging, relentless and undeniable. And as long as I have breath in my body, I will stand as a guardian of that truth, a father who fought against betrayal and emerged victorious, no matter the cost. Every day, I wake with the determination to honor my wife's memory, to shield my children from the harshness of a world that once sought to tear us apart, and to prove that even when trust is shattered, a man's love for his family is invincible. This is not a story of simple redemption or of forgiving the unforgivable. It is a tale of struggle, of defiance, and of a resolute commitment to reclaim what was stolen from me. I remain vigilant, ever mindful of the cost of betrayal, and I forge ahead with the knowledge that my fight for justice has not only restored my dignity, but has also set the course for a future defined by resilience, truth, and an unbreakable bond of family. There are moments when the memories of my wife and the pain of her loss come flooding back, but I have learned to channel that grief into the strength that now propels me forward. My sister-in-law's actions may have attempted to erase my role as a father and tarnish the legacy of the woman I loved, but in doing so, she only ignited a fire within me that will never be extinguished. I have reclaimed my life piece by piece, and I will continue to fight for the future of my children with every ounce of my being. The journey is far from over, but I face each new day with the knowledge that I have already overcome the worst that betrayal could offer. My story, marked by loss and betrayal, is ultimately one of fierce love and unyielding strength, a reminder that even in the darkest times, justice can be won through steadfast determination and the refusal to surrender to despair. I stand here today, a father scarred but unbroken, with a heart tempered by the fires of betrayal and a spirit fortified by the love I hold for my children. I have taken the bitter taste of treachery and transformed it into the resolve to secure a future where truth reigns and where my family can finally begin to heal. This is my truth, a truth I will defend with every fiber of my being, a truth that has set me free from the chains of deceit, and a truth that will forever illuminate the path forward for those I love.